Welcome to the opening session of Boundless 2021. My name is Kristen, and I'm the Senior Customer Success Manager at Nutshell, as well as a co-producer of Boundless since its inception in 2019. As many of you have already heard, the theme of this year's conference is Back in Business, which aims to provide skilled professionals like you with real, actionable advice to get back in the saddle after an extremely challenging year. It is my pleasure to kick off our first Masterclass session centering around bettering your workflow for maximum efficiency and revenue growth. Hey, Lindley. Oh, awesome. We've got some great customers in the audience. So great to see you. I'm going to pull up my slides really quickly. As some of you know, I've had the pleasure of working with some of you already, but I started working in customer success a few years ago at Nutshell when I noticed many of our customers were leaving after several months due to a lack of training and onboarding. In listening intently to our customers' needs, I was able to identify 5 pillars of every successful team. I then began streamlining that process that would ensure that every new customer that I worked with would receive help in all 5 of those areas. So to quickly share my findings, let me just tab through here. Those 5 different pillars were data migration, team configuration, or data restriction, in other words, integration setup, CRM training, and pipeline configuration. So to help make sure I hit all of those milestones with every customer, I admittedly needed some help staying organized and providing some high visibility progress reporting. All right. So I used this pipeline worksheet. This is a resource that I'm actually going to hand out to you right now. This is something that I love giving new teams as you begin brainstorming about what exactly you need to see here, you should be having that right now. What exactly you need to implement into your process. So I used Nutshell's customizable pipeline tool to track my onboarding leads through this series of pillars, or in Nutshell's terms, stages. As a team of 1, I was easily doing the work of a larger team and eventually scaled the customer success department at Nutshell. Okay. So that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about optimizing workflows. The seconds, minutes, or hours that you are wasting every week doing double data entry, researching prospects or customers across multiple platforms or inboxes, and playing telephone between team members really adds up to big dollar amounts. Your time is valuable. You're experts in your industry. When you begin to internalize those truths, you won't want to wait to find a process that gives you and your team more time to focus on lucrative opportunities. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and kick off here just with some very basic definitions. And for many of you, this might be very elementary, very entry level, but I still think it's really important just to go through these definitions so that we're all on the same page and sharing a common understanding of what exactly it is we're talking about today. So a process is the sum of major milestones in your workflow, right? A lead is going to pass through these different stages in your process from prospect to customer or new customer to onboarded customer, whatever those definitions are. That's what a process is. It's taking the very sophisticated, complicated things that you do at work every day and putting it into and interpreting it into a piece of software so that you can stay organized and repeat your most successful conversions again and again. Most of these stages are going to occur inside of Nutshell, but you may need to alert someone in your billing department or fire off an email marketing message. So while it lives inside of your CRM, that's going to be the hub or your source of truth where you're going to basically, steer the ship. We can also use this process to set automations, notify other team members of what needs to be done. So many of you in the audience today are Nutshell customers, so you're familiar with what a lead is, but just to circle back to that really quickly, it represents a body of work, an opportunity to make a sale, right? A lot of other products will call these opportunities or orders, but a lead is a lead, right? That represents any kind of body of work that you're entering into these series of stages. So a lead is generally going to be connected with a person or a company just so that your team member or you will have a point of contact identified and have your target named. Okay, so that's what a lead is. All right, so I'm going to launch a quick poll for you all. I would love to know who in the audience today has already made a clearly defined process for your leads. yeah, just excited to hear what everybody has to say. Either you're a process pro, you have created a process already, you have it down pat, and you're already benefiting from some of Nutshell's pipeline reporting tools to understand where you can optimize your process. You might have a process in hand already, but you feel like it could use some fine tuning. I'm always in that middle category, by the way. It's always okay to optimize and iterate. Or you're following up on your leads manually and really having a hard time staying on top of everything. So I'm going to take a quick sip of water here while we wait for these results to come through. Awesome. Good stuff, you guys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this in just a moment. I'm really interested to hear what you all had to say. It looks like the majority of you fall into this middle bucket of you have a process in place. It's maybe not the best, right? I'm going to go ahead and close that. Thank you so much for participating, you guys. So it looks like 4% of you are process pros. Congratulations. I strive to be like you. That's wonderful. 74% of you, 69% of you have a process in place, but feel you have a little room for improvement. And then 27% of you are following up on all of your opportunities manually. That is a lot of time, right? That's a lot of time. If you're feeling either that you are not sold on having a process yet, or if you're in that middle category of, I have a process, I'm not sure what needs to happen next, I just have one last selling point for you. If you're finding yourself saying like, my team is losing leads in the pass off, right? I'm playing telephone between my team members. I left an important follow-up through the cracks. I forgot about that renewal. Those are all indicators that maybe if you are in that top tier, if you're still finding yourself saying some of those things, it could be time to, reopen the conversation with your team and really figure out what areas of opportunity to improve there still are. So sales processes, and this is my last selling point, I promise, before we get into the brass tacks, increase your team's win rate. They reduce your average sales cycle, and they increase your average sale price. So if that isn't compelling to you by now, I don't know what will be. It's just some pretty awesome stuff. So I want to talk about the different components of building a process or optimizing a process, wherever you're standing. To open this conversation, it's a little cheesy, but I've broken this down into the 5 W's of process building. I think it's really important when we have these big, scary conversations about what kind of a process it is that our business needs to follow, to break it down into bite-sized chunks, right? Easiest way to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So the first W I want to talk about is the who, right? Who on your team leads the business decisions, right? Who should have a voice or a seat at the table as you're determining what your process should be, right? For a lot of people, that is sales managers, but you also want to bring in a sales rep, right? Perhaps your most seasoned team member, just to make sure that their needs are being implemented in the system. Perhaps an executive team member, your VP of sales or your CEO, because the last thing you want to do is put together a process and then at the end of the day, find out that it's not quite meeting everyone's expectations, right? So who needs to be at the table as you're having this conversation? That's a really, really critical piece. The next W I want to talk about is the what, right? What is your goal? And I know that sounds really elementary, but this is a really important, very key piece of information. What is it that you're trying to do? Because a pipeline, in a nutshell, a process that's really begging the question of what's next, right? What's the next step? So we really want to make sure that we have a clearly defined vision for that process and for the work that we do every day. All right. Of course, the next W is where. I preach this all of the time to my teams. Where are your leads coming from, right? As you're asking your teams to be entering data into your CRM, this is a really critical piece and what I like to refer to as my marketing team's report card, right? That's going to show you what lead gen sources are really working for you, perhaps a conference, perhaps a certain web form, or an email blast. You really want to know what's working for you and what's not, so you can continue spending on those sources that are lucrative and maybe paring down the ones that are not. Okay. So the why explores the bigger picture. I onboard hundreds of new customers every year, and I can't tell you how many times I have the conversation with professionals who say, I'm not really sure why we're tracking this, or I don't know why I need to produce this report in this way. I think really digging into those answers and really gathering a full understanding of what kind of reporting on a high level your board is tracking, or folks at the executive table. Really understanding what those things are can be key to making sure that the people logging this data on a day-to-day are doing the work to contribute to that big picture goal. Okay, so that's my why. And then the when is pretty obvious, right? But it can be difficult to determine. I generally spend the most time talking with our new customers about the when, because you really need to think about when in your funnel, right? In that prospecting conversation, are you going to start tracking your progress? Is it as soon as someone submits a web form? Is it as soon as they land on your website? Is it as soon as you have an engaging conversation with them and they communicate explicitly that they're interested in your goods or services? That's up to you, right? You're the expert, not me. So you really have to think about when in the process you want to start tracking the lead through your workflow in your CRM, right? Where do you need help the most? You also need to determine when a lead is won. And that was my biggest challenge in using a pipeline to track customer onboarding or customer success pipeline. What constitutes a win? For me, I decided that it was as soon as I noticed a customer had a high adoption score, meaning they were logging in, they were moving leads through a pipeline, logging their activities, sending email. I track those metrics just to make sure that they're healthy, they're going to continue to renew. I also check to make sure they know how to reach out to our support team or get back with me if they ever need anything in the future. But it's definitely worthwhile to have that conversation just about when you're starting and what concludes that process. Okay. So before we get started, I'm going to be pulling up my screen really quickly and show you the Nutshell Pipeline Builder, just so that you feel you have all of the details about what you need to know to implement this in your CRM right away, if you would like. I want to talk about just a few things that I recommend. So the first thing that I recommend is just to define a few Nutshell products. And if you're new to Nutshell or not sure what that means, a product is how we track a dollar value through a process or through a pipeline in Nutshell, right? That's going to represent a good or a service. I like to give those things dollar values when possible, because Nutshell has some really gorgeous forecast reporting where you'll actually be able to look ahead and get a really good understanding of what you're anticipating to close in the next week, month, quarter, or year, right? That's really helpful information, especially as we're emerging from a year that was really unpredictable. It can be very calming and comforting to know. We talked about lead sources already. If you connect your web form with Nutshell or with your CRM, that should be auto-populating a source for you so that you can report back on how that lead source is performing. If you don't have a web form or you're working on it and you want to track this manually, you can manually create lead sources as well. It's just going to give you some very high-level reporting. Again, getting that information to your sales and marketing teams so that you understand what's working for you and what might not be quite as effective. I also recommend implementing some custom activity types. I like to recommend this because a lot of teams I work with like to gather data around conversion rates. What is converting my prospects into customers? How effective is it for in-person visits versus, a virtual demo? We're able to get those numbers just by logging the activities and then breaking that down in Nutshell by outcome to understand what's contributing, what's converting at a higher rate. So those are really, really useful. They've helped out a lot of teams I support. And then finally, we're going to look at custom outcomes here in a second as soon as I pull up my Nutshell account. But determining or defining your lead outcomes is really, really key. This is going to be how you report on, obviously a win is a win, right? But if a lead is canceled, why was it canceled? Talk with your sales teams, find out what those common objections they're hearing are, implement that into the system. And then over time, you're going to be able to not only follow up with those people, for example, who say that they didn't have the budget. You can send a bulk email to all of them the next time you're running a promotion, or if they say perhaps it's not the right time, we can set a reminder to follow up with those folks in another 6 months from now to touch base again. So just really trying to make sure that we're taking advantage of every possible opportunity, right? That's really what I want to do here. So one last time, this is the handout that I gave you already. This is the sales process worksheet. This is what I recommend you bring with to your teams to start having those conversations around, what happens first in my customer's buying process. or my contact's decision process? Who's responsible for it? What's the big milestone that needs to be met in that stage in order to move the conversation forward, right? Pipelines are always moving the conversation along. Tasks are glorified notifications, right? When do I want to alert my team member, even remind myself when to follow up with someone if it's been a certain period of time since my last follow-up, right? So this is a really, really useful tool. I have 2 more handouts for you. I'm going to pass you before, just as I'm sharing my next screen. I'm sharing some sales process templates. If you're excited about this but still don't really know where to go next, these templates are really helpful. It's basically just going to give you some of our most successful Nutshell customers templates. So you can take a look at these. I like to encourage you look at these as food for thought because every business is unique, right? Everybody does this a little bit differently. So while it's important to know what's working for other people, I really challenge you to find a process that's unique to your business, your industry, and specifically your customer. All right. Tasks are awesome. I use tasks all the time. If you're like me, but terrible memory, tasks are going to be your best friend. I have one final resource I'm going to share with you. These are task ideas. This is just some more good food for thought, right? If you're trying to brainstorm and really open the dialogue around, who you want to pull into this process to make sure that we're really moving the process along quickly. That's a really good one to take a look at. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, we've got such great participation in the chat today, you guys. Oh, wonderful. Jim, we will not be covering a lot of email sequences today. Perhaps my wonderful colleague, Ashante, can send you a little bit more information about email sequences from our help center. All right. Awesome, everyone. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. Hide my slides. Bear with me just a moment, everybody. All right, wonderful. So I'm going to pull up my demo Nutshell account, and we're going to start implementing this together. Okay, I'm going to be stopping in about 12 minutes just so that we can open up for more QA. So please let Ashante know if you have any questions that pertain to process building or how to facilitate these conversations with your team members. I would love to dialogue a little bit with you in a moment. So what we see here, this is my Nutshell dashboard, right? I've created a few dashboard cards for folks like you, perhaps in executive positions. These are the cards that I recommend. The pipeline card in particular is really useful because as you build your process, you're actually going to be able to hone in on those different stages in your pipeline just in a single click, right? So I can see where my money is getting held up, what I'm anticipating to close. Some really cool stuff there. But first, let's go back to our company settings. A few things that we shouted out a little bit earlier. Just want to show you some geography here so you know where to find it in the future. Your custom lead outcomes, right? That's in the portion south of the word administration here in your company settings. Your outcomes are how you determine how your leads are lost or canceled. So I like to determine a lost lead as like, do not contact me, go fish, right? We've all been there. Or perhaps you reached them and they're just not compatible with your business, right? That happens too, and that's okay. We still need to learn from it. For canceled outcomes, I like to track, no current budget, timing is bad, could not contact, something like that, just so that you're able to gather these really high-level metrics around why you're not getting folks across the finish line. Other things we mentioned, custom activity types. What do you want to learn more about when it comes to conversion rates? Do you want to know how your discovery calls are performing? Perhaps you have like a cold call activity type that you want to see how that's converting as a lead source. There's some really cool stuff here. All right. And of course, products. This is how we track the dollar value of leads through a pipeline. If you're the type of, team or person who's tracking value through a pipeline. I'm not using value through my pipeline. I'm actually just using the lead page as the body of work that I'm using to track through until we finally graduate that customer and they're happy and sure to renew. Right. But let's go ahead and we'll build a pipeline together today. I'm going to use a very simple inbound and outbound sales pipeline. I'm just going to click that add a new pipeline here. I'm going to call this sales V2 because we already have a sales pipeline in here, but maybe I want to do a little bit of A/B testing, right? Maybe I want to try a different process just to see how that performs. With Nutshell's really sophisticated reporting tools, we'll be able to see which process is really moving the needle. All right, so for my first stage, because this is going to kind of be a little bit inbound, a little bit outbound, I'm going to have my first stage be an intake stage. Now, a few things before I click the go button. We can add stage guidance here. I'm not going to do this because this is an example and I don't have a sales team who's going to be using this. But for someone like you, this is a great place to communicate expectations to your team members, provide that coaching, even if you are not in the same office or over their shoulder. A lot of sales managers I work with like to use this field for phone scripts, right? Whatever it is that you need every single team member or sales team member to know when the lead is in this stage, you can use guidance because it's going to appear right under their nose when the lead is in the intake stage. A few other things. If you're the kind of team who's interested, if your ears perked up when I mentioned the forecast report, if bandwidth planning or revenue expectations, if that's important to you or something you're curious about, you can automate the increase of confidence as a lead enters a new stage. This is just going to make sure it gets done. A lot of my sales team members, especially when you're working high lead, not high lead volume, but dollar value, you like to be a little bit specific lead by lead. It's not really something you want to automate, but perhaps you've been using, right, my 4%ers out there, the folks who have an expert process. You probably know what your conversion rates are at each stage in your process, right? If you're using the Nutshell's funnel report, you could automate this, but if you're still learning, it's okay to leave this blank. You can mark leads as overdue if they remain in a stage for a certain period of time. I recommend this for teams struggling to maintain velocity through their pipeline. And you can auto close or decay leads if they remain in a stage for too long. This is really only helpful if you are working very high lead volume and you're kind of like struggling to focus on the folks who are engaged, right? I'm going to leave this blank for now. I'm just going to click add. This takes me to the first this first screen where I'm really going to be able to customize through all the different pieces of my process. I just want to add the rest of my stages here. So I had these down. I'm after intake, I'm going to move into a research stage. From research, we'll call this outreach. Right. After outreach, I'm going to add 3 more: discovery, pitching, and finally closing. Amazing. Okay, so that's our process. There are a lot of other customizations we're going to talk about next, but that's it. I mean, I can start entering a lead into this pipeline right now, and I'm going to know from a very high level where the different leads are in this process. I have high level management capabilities. I have reporting capabilities. I no longer have to have that 5 or 10 minute conversation with a team member or an employee just to get a status update on, where we are in a conversation. It is implemented. It is clear as day. This is going to save you so much time. All right. But a few other things that I want to mention here. User assignment is really useful for large teams. For many of you, this won't be relevant, but it's my due diligence to let you know that it's here. A lot of teams at the intake stage, they will like round robin this to members of a specific team, just so that there are no arguments. Everybody's getting a lead evenly distributed to them. Other examples in this intake stage, what can be really helpful here is to assign leads to specific individuals based on different criteria. So let's say that Eric, he is my best salesperson. I want to make sure that Eric gets all of my leads over a certain dollar value just automatically, right? That's a really common one. If you're the type of team that works geographic regions or territories, right, we can make sure that all leads within a certain time zone get assigned to your East Coast reps. All right, so there's a number of ways that we can kind of help save time here and kind of be your business ops helper. Again, this could be relevant to you. It might not be, but that's up to you to decide. All right, the next thing we can talk about here are stage goals. This is what's automating the progression forward just automatically based on what Nutshell learns about you. So perhaps as soon as we get a lead, we want to say, okay, Nutshell, as soon as we have the person's name, email address, and phone number, let's just kick them into the next stage. I don't need to bother any one of my team members to say, hey, let's do a little bit of research. So for example, if you have a web form that's populating leads in your system, this is automatically going to zip over to the research stage, right? I can send a task. If I want, as soon as the lead falls into that stage, just in case I haven't been able to meet this stage goal right away, whoever got assigned that lead will receive a notification that they have a little bit to do, okay? As soon as we are in the next stage, we might want to do a little bit more research, right? Again, if I have a web form, this is all populating into Nutshell automatically. But if they did not complete a web form, if I'm doing a little bit of hunting, I might want to flip this around. So I'm going to use a stage goal to learn something specific about this lead. This is also a great stage goal, by the way, if your team is very, a customer taught me this term the other day, technophobic. If you're struggling to get your team to enter data into your system, this can be a really great, easy way to help them. You can basically just say, I want to make sure we have a dollar value. I want to make sure that we have a source listed. Where did this lead come from? What's their budget? Am I tracking against any competitors? Right? What is the expected close date? Whatever it is you want to know about this lead, you can just implement that as a stage goal. And then as soon as we have those things collected, Nutshell is going to pop that lead into the outreach stage. Okay. So I'm going to add a task here or notification. Do some research, right? Find them on LinkedIn, Google them, pick up the phone, whatever we need to do to learn answers to those questions. We'll get that notification to get to work. This is where it gets really exciting. And our friend in the audience who was asking about email sequences a moment ago, this is for you. What we can do next is actually automate a personalized email as soon as the lead hits this stage. That's a series of 3 emails. So if I don't get a response from my prospect within a couple of business days, Nutshell's going to keep me top of their inbox for potentially weeks, right? That's just free time, right? So I can add a template here. I'm going to use this let's talk sequence. I'm going to send it, as soon as the lead enters this stage, and then I'll stop sending it as soon as they respond, right? As soon as we get into the discovery stage. I want this sent from the lead assignee. You could also have this sent from, somebody really high up with name recognition, like your CEO. All right, so I'm going to add this as an automated email here. And my stage goal is going to be to receive a reply to this email. So as soon as I get a response, the sequence halts and then they're kicked into the next stage, right? I don't need to lift a finger. So to paint the picture for you, if I have a web form sitting on my .com and I have all of these fields plus email address, plus name, plus contact information, the first thing that my team needs to do is hop on a discovery call. All of this top of funnel is being automated for you. And that is awesome, right? That is a lot of time back in your pockets, right? Once we get to discovery, we might want to set an expectation that we are logging an activity, something like a demo, discovery call. We'll just call this one, here we've got discovery call. It's perfect, right? And then add a task for our reps just to follow up. Let's keep chasing them to make sure that we're, for sure going to engage with the folks who have responded to our email, right? They have let us know their interest in what we have to offer. Time to get the ball rolling. Okay, so we'll just say schedule, discovery, call. So you can begin to see how this is, moving you towards the end of your funnel. In my experience, I find that the final stages are a little bit lighter on automation because they can vary so dramatically. So I like to keep these pretty clear, but perhaps you have a billing contact and you need to assign a task to that billing contact just to loop them into the conversation, right? That's pretty common, right? So as soon as you're in the closing stage, we might want to say, send invoice or, do billing tasks, whatever that might be for them. Assign that to our billing contact just so that they're alerted right away, like, hey, this is on the horizon. I'm going to have a little bit on my plate. Okay. Really cool stuff, you guys. Last thing I'd like to show you here in the outreach stage, let's say that I send this automated message. I don't hear back from anybody and my sequence is set to expire in 2 weeks. This is a really good way to leverage this decay rule, right? So I want to say, let's go ahead and say 10 business days, right? So that's 2 weeks. I want to auto close all those leads into could not contact. Now they don't go away. They don't get deleted. They're just in a different bucket so that my reps can really focus on the leads that are engaged. They're interested. They're talking back to us. This is helping your team ignore the noise not the noise, but kind of really focus in on folks who are talking back to us, right? That's where the money is. So I just want to clear everything out of my pipeline, keep them nice and focused on the deals that are going to be, lining their pockets. And then finally, right, we have different outcomes for leads. We talked about this a lot. We're looking for a win. We want a one lead, clearly, right? And maybe here I want to automate a task to my customer success team, to schedule an onboarding call, right? I want them to be alerted of that right away. Again, just moving, like passing the baton quickly, so that you're really not letting anything slip through the cracks. For your lost and your canceled leads, what a great way to connect your pipeline with your email marketing tool to create what we call a win-back campaign, right? So you auto-close your lead, you can still stay in touch with them, again, without lifting a finger. So this is protecting so much time that your team is no longer going to be spending chasing down people who just aren't engaged, right? It's really allowing you to spend all of your time just calmly engaging and genuinely engaging with the people who are interested in your goods and services. Really cool stuff, you guys. All right, I'm going to stop share there, pull my slides back up for you. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for your attendance, participation today. I love doing this kind of thing, and this has really helped me so much in my work every day. So it's really a pleasure and an honor to share this information with you. A few things just before we turn it over to QA. If you get it wrong, like long story short, it's okay. This is a living, breathing piece of software. It's designed to be changed and optimized over time. It's okay just to get something in there and play around with it, right? Gather feedback, have a weekly meeting with your sales team just to make sure, like, hey, let me check your temperature. How is this working for you? Is it helping save you time, or is it feeling like you're just inundated with so many extra tasks? Right. So it's okay to get something in there and then play around with it. It doesn't need to be at 100% when you first roll it out. It's okay. Right. I also love A/B testing, right? I think that's a really great way to tackle this. If you are having this really heated discussion, right, which hopefully this masterclass is going to initiate, right? I want you to have really good conversations about your process and what it is that's best for your business and your customer. But if you can't agree on a single process, you can always try both and then report on them, see what's working best for you, and stick with that one, right? That's a really great way to settle an argument with data. Okay, and then finally, the support team here at Nutshell is here for you. We believe in scaling businesses. We're scaling business ourselves. We want you to be successful. So if you are running into any kinds of issues or have questions, you can call us, you can email us, you can chat with us. There are a million ways to get support just because we really believe in what it is that you do and we want to help as best we can. Okay, so don't worry about it, right? Great. So I'm going to head into questions here in just a second, but just because I get some really frequently asked questions, I just wanted to cover those quickly. How many pipelines does a successful business have? Between 1 and 3. It really varies based on the different processes you would like to incorporate into your system. Here at Nutshell, we have 10 different pipelines because we have our support team, our tech team, our marketing team, our success team, our sales team, all under one roof and all benefiting from this real beautiful linear process to help us all stay organized, right? We are a small and mighty team, and we each do the work of 15 people thanks to very sophisticated software. So that's up to you, put some consideration into that. The number of stages in a process, that can also vary depending on how many different measurements you'd like to extract from this process, right? Do you want to know how quickly your reps are, moving a cold lead into a warm lead? You can kind of build these gentle fences around the different milestones in your process by using stages so that you can really hone in on average time of a lead spent in each of one of those stages. So that's up to you again, but I would say, between 3 and 9 is generally what I see. Should I open a lead when I first discover a prospect, or should I wait until the lead has explicitly communicated interest? If you're asking me, I really love source to sale reporting. That gets me really excited because I'm actually able to put a dollar value on what my marketing team is doing, right? How much revenue is that generating? We all want to put our name on the big R, right? Revenue. So that's really pulling in a lot of, team visibility, shared accountability. So if you're asking my opinion, that's my take. All right. And then last question, can I report on my global sales across several pipelines? Yes. Nothing more to say there. Okay. Yes, you can. You can use Nutshell's sales reporting to report across multiple pipelines. You don't need to worry about, segmenting your data in weird ways. If you're using 2 different pipelines to track your sales and doing an A/B test, you can still get global reporting as well as hone in on those different pipelines separately. Awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking. I'm going to head over to QA and answer a few of your amazing questions. We've gotten so many, you guys. Thank you so much. All right. Wonderful. How do you track metrics? What a great question. Yeah. So I would go over to the reporting tab in your Nutshell account. That's the climbing chart icon in your navy sidebar on the left-hand side. I could fill another hour talking to you about Nutshell's reports. But Ashante, if you have a moment, could you please look at the Nutshell reports overview in the Help Center just to get Hannah a little bit more information about reporting? There's so much that we can look at. As soon as you have a process put in place, that's really setting the stage for you to get tons of metrics, tons of KPIs, a better understanding of the velocity of leads moving through your funnel, what's working, what's not. So let's talk some more about reporting. But you can start playing around by using things like your funnel report. Right, if you're looking at your Nutshell account, I can just pull it up right now. I'm going to share my screen one more time for you. But using the funnel report, that's a really great way to take a quick temperature check on how your pipeline is performing. That's right here. So I can pull up a specific pipeline and understand exactly how long my leads are staying at each stage, what the conversion percentage is within a specific time frame from one stage to the next. This is giving me some really cool data, right? It's pretty meaty. So take this one to your team, understand what you would like to know, what you want to learn about your process and how your team is performing. And then circle back to this. I would do this once a month just until you really narrow down what works for you and what doesn't. Okay, very cool. I'm going to keep moving down. These are such great questions, everyone. Ooh. All right. John Marie wants to know any suggestions on how to split up between B2C and B2B leads and how to organize them. Wow. Yeah, that's a great question too. So Jean, what I would do for you is in your company settings, you can actually adjust your company types, right? I would implement that here because we can use these high-level company types to segment your wins, to segment your business, to filter down on your leads. This is really going to give you that from a very high level, who you're doing business with, right? On every single one of your company pages, that's going to be located here in the upper right-hand corner, right? And then when I'm in my reporting, I can use my little, my product team is going to hate me for this, but this little martini glass icon in the upper left-hand corner to filter down by company type. Okay, so that's really going to give you that, that distinction, that segmentation. That's a great question. All right. Ooh, okay. Narmeen has a great question too. How would you build a process that involves multiple people? For example, initial contact is done by our sales rep. Pitch section would move to a director. Another great question, Narmeen. Thank you so much. So we have the benefit in our pipeline builder to assign leads by stage to different people, right? So we have these different boxes for user assignment. For example, if I have a specific, team member handling all of my research, as soon as it moves into outreach, I can then assign that lead to a different person, right? Or again, use that round robin option to just evenly distribute the lead around. This email automation is going to send from whoever the lead is assigned to, right? So that's taken care of. Again, we can still automate top of funnel. But yeah, absolutely. I would just use those different assignment options at the top of your screen. Cool. All right. Is there a place to hire someone to help me on Nutshell? Hey, Gary, we're here for you. No, yeah, just give us a call. Let us know what we can do to help. We have a knowledge base. If any of you want to do some more research, I mentioned that reporting article a little bit earlier for our friends. This is the Nutshell Reports overview. There's so much time invested in this help center. It's written by people like me, people like Ashante, who use Nutshell every day. They live and breathe this platform. So this is your best resource to learn more. We also have tons of training videos if you want to, really get another deep dive, something similar to this, right? We won't be live, of course, which we would always prefer, but there's some great content here that's really going to help you understand Nutshell a little bit better. You also see the chat here. The team's amazing. We're all located here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and absolutely have your back. So just give us a shout if we can do anything for you. We also host weekly trainings. I host a weekly admin lunch and learn, right? But if you just even search here training, I'm using this little question mark icon in my Navy sidebar. I host weekly lunch and learns just to speak with admins, new and existing admins in nutshell, give them some of my favorite best practices, answer a few questions. It's always a lot of fun. We get great participation. You can also attend new user training. This is a great way just to get that quick refresh, right? I know it's been a year, right? If we're just getting back into our CRM after 12 months, that's okay. We're here to help you get back in the saddle, right? So this is a great way to kind of get that refresher. So we have a number of resources. You don't need to shell out a bunch of money to learn Nutshell. That's not the position we want to put you in. We're not like a lot of other platforms out there. So please just let us know what we can do to help, and we'll take it from there. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, so Ian wants to know how you distinguish between lost or canceled leads. He thinks that loss would be due to price, competitor, etc. Canceled being project being dropped, event canceled. That's a good question. Ian, for me, a canceled lead is something that could come back, right? My favorite sales managers call these zombie leads. A lost lead to me is it's not worth my time, right? It's not going to be something that I need to circle back to later. Nutshell's still going to hang on to that lost lead for me, just that I don't waste time in the future reaching out to the same person, right? If they consumed a lot of my time and energy in the past, I still want to be able to know that the next time that they cross my desk. But a canceled lead, right? That's a zombie lead. It could come back to you. That's a really good question. It deserves conversation on your team. Talk about the different objections you're hearing and determine which cohort you want to reach back out to that deserves your follow-up and which we can kind of leave on the table. All right. What else here? Wow, so many great questions, everyone. Thank you so much. I think we have time for a couple more. Wonderful. So Narmeen's got another question about web forms. So which web forms do we recommend for pipelines? Is that the best way to track leads, or is recording everything directly on Nutshell the best way? I'm always going to tell you that tracking leads through Nutshell is the best way. It gives you reporting, right? But if you want to connect a web form with Nutshell, it's very easily done. We have a few codeless options, right? For those big teams out there in the audience today, if you have a dev team, we have open API resources that they can do to create custom automations, gathering information from your website, populating it inside of Nutshell in exactly the way that you want. There are very easy ways to do this too, right? I recommend Wufoo or Unbounce. There are a number of different options here that you can use. Yeah, I like this article a lot. I wrote this up because I get this question quite a bit. So if you don't have a landing page, Unbounce is a great option for you. If you want to add a form to an existing website, right? We've got Gravity Forms, Drop Forms. There are a bunch of different options here. I really like Unbounce. I really like Wufoo. I would have you start there. But yeah, there's a lot of options out there. Nutshell also, and we play nice with others. I like to say we connect with a product called Zapier, which is a third-party tool that serves as the glue between your CRM and third-party tools. So it's very affordable. Most of my customers spend about $20 a month on Zapier just to pull in information from many, many sources. Okay. Wonderful. You guys, it has been so much fun. I don't have time to get to all of these questions. Yeah, the martini glass reference is pretty funny. I always get a chuckle out of it. But thank you so much for tuning into the session. It's been so wonderful connecting with you. Please stay tuned for our next Boundless Masterclass, centering sales and service around your customer. It begins right here at 12:15 Eastern time. That is in 16 minutes. Okay, so hang out and we'll see you very soon. Thank you again so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take care.